The Prime Minister has landed in Indonesia as he seeks to expand trade and security ties with one of our nearest neighbours in his first overseas trip since his thumping election win. Anthony Albanese will only spend one full day in Jakarta, but he's got a packed agenda, including a sit-down with Indonesia's President Prabowo Subianto later today.
Meanwhile, the big week of leadership battles will reach its conclusion today when the Greens choose who'll take the reins of their party after Adam Bandt lost his seat in Melbourne. Political reporter Nicole Hegarty joins us now from Parliament House. Nicole, what do we know so far about the Greens leadership race?
Good morning, Bridget. Well, we know that the new leader is going to be a senator because the party only retains one seat in the House of Representatives, in that held by the second-term now MP for Ryan in Brisbane, Elizabeth Watson-Brown, after losing three of their seats, including that of the former leader in Adam Bandt. They do, however, have 11 senators in this Parliament, so that is where among the ranks in which they will find their new leader. The three contenders for today's competition in terms of deciding who will take on that title are Marine Faruqi, Sarah Hanson-Young and Larissa Waters. It's expected to be a somewhat tight contest, and a senator has told the ABC that that is a good thing as the party looks to move forward and consider what a review of its election loss finds in terms of how it should go forward from here, whether it should return to more environmental focus or continue along the path that it has taken now. So that will be resolved. But yes, it's the third leadership question being resolved here in the halls of Parliament in this week.
And Nicole, let's turn to the Prime Minister's trip to Indonesia. What's the focus there?
The focus of this trip being the first the Prime Minister has taken since his re-election, it was also the first visit internationally in his first term, is again on economic and defence ties. Indonesia is on track to become the fifth largest economy by 2040, and Australia is wanting to take advantage of that and be a bigger part of that, encourage investment in the region, as it also works to strengthen Australia's presence in that same region as well, on economic and also defence grounds. So that's the focus of this meeting between Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto in Indonesia today.
Thanks a lot, Nicole.
New research shows 1 in 5 young Australians believe tracking a partner's location is to be expected in a romantic relationship, something that has domestic violence advocates very worried. Our reporter Ariana Levy is covering this story for us this morning and joins us from Brisbane. Ari, tell us about this. This study has linked location sharing apps with an increased risk of coercive control.
Yeah, that's right, James. It is very concerning, and the results were concerning as well. So the eSafety Commission conducted a survey of about 2,000 Australians across the country, aged between 18 and 75 years old, and they were asked questions along the lines of whether or not they thought it was appropriate for their partner to need to track their location, and whether or not it was okay for them to be constantly available for phone calls, texts and even video chats. Now, these questions were designed to be along the lines of behaviours that were conducive with technology-facilitated coercive control. It's a term that's frequent and most recently sort of garnered national attention after several high-profile domestic violence cases, including an inquest into the murder of Lily James in Sydney, which revealed that her killer had actually used her location on Snapchat to stalk her. Now, this study has found that nearly 1 in 5 young Australians believe it's okay and think it's reasonable for a partner to track your location when it comes to a romantic relationship. And what was perhaps most concerning was that the study also found that a lot of this behaviour was being accustomed to for young people from a young age. And that includes using apps like Life360 and Find My iPhone, which have been marketed to parents to be used as a tool to keep children safe. But what it was finding was that these behaviours were then being transferred to other relationships like like intimate partnerships and even friendships. Now, the ABC spoke to a number of young people about their experiences with location sharing apps, and almost all the young women we spoke to had said that they had had an experience of either stalking or feeling unsafe using location sharing apps. Now, Queensland researchers are saying that a lot of that is going to be linked to an increased risk of domestic violence when it comes to these location sharing apps, and this is why the eSafety Commission is calling on companies now to ensure that they're including safety by design features to make sure that they prevent any sort of misuse. But probably the most powerful quote that came out of the eSafety Commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, was that effectively the insidious nature of coercive control ensures that any sort of determined perpetrator can find and exploit loopholes in terms of perpetrating violence, and that really served as sort of a harrowing warning when it came to this story, James.
All right, Ari, thank you for that. And later in the program, we will be speaking with the eSafety Commissioner about this. And a reminder, if this story has raised any issues for you at all, you can get help by calling the National Sexual Assault, Domestic and Family Violence Counselling Service on 1800-RESPECT. That number, 1800-737-732. All right, let's head over to Emma for your latest headlines.
Thank you. Australian writer and democracy activist Yang Hengjun has written an emotional letter to the Prime Minister to mark 6 years behind bars in China. Last year, he was given a suspended death sentence for espionage, an accusation he and the Australian government have repeatedly rejected. Dr. Yang says he's been through unbearable suffering, but he's grateful to the Australian government and his supporters and maintains his dream of freedom. Legal aid groups in Timor Leste have slammed the proposed pardon of a convicted paedophile and ex-priest, saying the government should meet with victims. Defrocked American priest Richard Darskbach was sentenced to 12 years in prison in 2021 after being found guilty of sexually abusing disadvantaged young girls under his care in the remote province of Okusi. The Timor-Leste government proposes pardons for convicted criminals every year on Independence Day and has called for the now 88-year-old to be released. A prominent advocate for survivors of child sexual abuse is calling on Victoria to lead the nation and introduce special laws that would hold churches and their clergy accountable for predatory behaviour. It comes after a landmark High Court decision last year, which found the Catholic Church was not liable for abuse perpetrated by one of its priests because he was not an employee. Victoria and other states are now under pressure to overhaul laws to retrospectively recognise the employment relationship of priests. Parents at schools on New South Wales' Central Coast are expecting more bans on the use of e-bikes after an independent Catholic boys' high school officially banned its students from riding them. The principal of St Edward's College at East Gosford made the decision due to alarming statistics and safety risks.